It was a cold autumn night in Pine Ridge, Oregon, the kind of night when even the wind seemed to whisper secrets. The pines groaned under the weight of the storm, and lightning crawled across the bruised sky like veins of silver fire. Sheriff Ethan Cole tightened his jacket and glanced down at Luna, his German Shepherd partner, who sat alert beside the patrol truck. Her ears twitched before each thunderclap, but her eyes stayed focused on the forest road ahead. "Dispatch said the call came from up near the lumber trail," Ethan murmured, loading his flashlight. "Kid's been missing 3 hours. Rain's washing away everything fast." Luna gave a low whine, restless. She could sense it, something hidden behind the rain and trees. They drove slowly through the flooded path until the radio crackled again. "Be advised, Sheriff, visibility near 0 beyond mile marker 6. Rescues en route." "Copy that," Ethan said, stepping out into the downpour. "Come on, girl." Luna leapt out beside him, paws sinking into the mud. Her fur gleamed under the patrol light, and her breath came out in visible bursts. The storm howled through the trees, but she moved like she could hear something else entirely, a faint heartbeat beneath the wind. Ethan followed her lead, boots splashing in puddles, until Luna stopped abruptly near an old barbed fence. She barked twice, low and urgent. Ethan shone his flashlight forward. A small red sneaker lay half buried in the dirt. His stomach clenched. "Damn." He radioed in, found the boy's shoe. "East of the lumber trail." But Luna wasn't done. She growled softly and turned her head toward the deeper woods, tail stiff. Ethan frowned. There was nothing visible beyond the trees, just endless dark. "Easy, Luna," he said, but she didn't move. Instead, she whined and looked back at him, almost pleading. Ethan sighed. "All right. Show me." They walked another half-mile into the woods. The air grew heavier, colder. Somewhere ahead, a faint metallic sound echoed, like chains swaying. Ethan froze. "You hear that?" Luna's fur bristled. She took a cautious step forward, then another, until the beam of the flashlight caught something, an old metal sign, rusted and half-fallen. Pine Ridge Lumber Company, closed since 2008. Beyond the sign was a collapsed building, its roof torn, windows shattered, the forest slowly swallowing it whole. Ethan swallowed hard. "What the hell is this place doing out here?" Luna barked once and ran toward the structure. "Luna!" Ethan called, rushing after her. He climbed over broken boards and ducked under a beam. The smell hit him, damp earth, rot, and something else, faint but sharp. Like rusted iron. Blood. He felt it before he saw it. Luna was pawing at a small trapdoor under a pile of debris. Ethan cleared it off, pried it open, and shone his light inside. The beam revealed a narrow staircase leading underground. "Stay behind me," he said quietly, drawing his gun. Each step creaked under his boots. The air was thick, stale. Somewhere below, water dripped steadily, one drop at a time, echoing through the dark. At the bottom, the light hit a small underground chamber. There were shelves lined with old toys, faded photos on the wall, and a child's blanket on the floor. Ethan's throat went dry. "No way." Luna whimpered and moved toward the blanket, sniffing. Then she stopped, staring at something in the corner. Ethan turned the light. A box sat there, half open, filled with police badges. One of them had his father's name. He froze. "Dad." Before he could think, a noise behind him, creaking wood. Ethan spun around, gun raised, but no one was there. The beam flickered. Then a whisper. Not a voice exactly, more like the sound of someone breathing near his ear. He turned back toward Luna. She was staring at the darkness behind him, growling. Ethan's heart pounded. "We're not alone down here." A sudden crash upstairs, wood splintering, glass shattering. Ethan grabbed Luna's collar. "Move." They raced up the stairs as the entire structure groaned. Rainwater poured through the roof as they escaped outside, panting. Ethan looked back, the building's upper frame collapsed, burying the entrance. Lightning flashed, and for a split second, Ethan saw a man standing at the tree line, watching them. But when he blinked, the figure was gone. Morning came gray and hollow. The rain had slowed, leaving a film of mist that clung to the trees like breath on glass. Sheriff Ethan Cole stood by the edge of the collapsed lumber building, its remains steaming in the cold air. Luna sat beside him, muzzle damp, eyes fixed on the ruin. Deputy Harris kicked at a piece of timber. "Storm must have finished what time already started," he muttered. Ethan shook his head. "No. Someone was inside last night. I saw a figure." Harris frowned. "Out here? At that hour?" "Maybe reflection of the lightning, Sheriff." Ethan didn't answer. He crouched and picked up something half buried in the mud, a brass button, dull but unmistakable. A police-issue uniform button, with the initials PRSD etched faintly on the back. Pine Ridge Sheriff's Department. The style was from 2 decades ago. He pocketed it. "Run a check on the old roster," he said quietly. "Officers who served before '09. "Copy that." Luna sniffed the ground again, tail flicking. She moved a few steps toward the trees, then looked back at Ethan and gave a short bark. He followed. She stopped at a hollow where the mud dipped into a shallow trench. There, half hidden beneath wet leaves, was a child's drawing, crumpled, colors bled by the rain. 2 stick figures and a brown dog between them. The taller one had ETN scrawled above its head. Ethan's breath caught. "Grace," he murmured. That afternoon, he sat in his sister's small newspaper office downtown. Grace Cole, hair in a messy bun and coffee gone cold beside her, squinted at the photo he'd taken. "You found this under the old lumber site?" she asked. "Right where Luna led me." Grace leaned back, thoughtful. "That mill closed when we were 12. Dad worked the security detail there before he retired. Remember?" "Yeah," Ethan said. "And the badge in that basement belonged to him." She looked up sharply. "You're sure?" "I saw his nameplate." "Cole, Deputy." Grace's jaw tightened. "Ethan, Dad told me all his badges burned in the precinct fire." He nodded slowly. "That's what I thought too." A silence settled, heavy and unsure. The rain had started again, tapping against the window. Grace finally said, "If those toys and that blanket belonged to one of the missing kids, then someone hid everything instead of reporting it. That's not just cover-up, it's personal." Ethan stared at the gray street outside. Mayor Dalton was deputy back then. He and Dad worked every shift together. Grace exhaled. "You think the mayor?" "I think Dad wasn't the man we remember." Night crept early over Pine Ridge. Ethan sat alone on the porch, files spread out across the table, Luna curled at his feet. The radio crackled faintly with local chatter, but his focus was elsewhere, the old missing child reports Grace had printed for him. Every one of them ended the same way, search suspended due to weather conditions. He tapped the paper. "All during storms, Luna," he said quietly. "Every single one." Luna lifted her head, ears twitching. A faint rumble of thunder rolled across the hills. She whined once, low, uneasy. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Cole." A man's voice rasped through static. "Stop digging, Sheriff. Some graves were meant to stay closed." Click. Ethan froze. The line went dead. He stared at the phone, then at Luna. "Looks like someone's still watching the woods." He didn't sleep. By dawn, he was back on the forest road. Mist curled between the trees, and frost glittered on the branches. Luna trotted ahead, nose low. Half a mile in, she veered off the trail toward an old hunting cabin, one Ethan didn't remember being there before. Smoke seeped weakly from the chimney. He approached quietly, hand on his holster. The door was ajar. Inside, the smell of coffee and oil lanterns filled the small space. On the table lay a photo album. He flipped it open. Every page showed kids posing beside the old mill, each photo dated between 1998 and 2008. In several of them, a familiar figure stood in the background, his father, uniform crisp, hand resting on the shoulder of Mayor Dalton. Ethan's pulse thudded in his ears. "What the hell were you doing, Dad?" Behind him, the floorboard creaked. He turned, and froze. Mayor Dalton stood at the doorway, raincoat dripping, shotgun leveled. "Morning, Sheriff," Dalton said, voice calm, almost weary. "You shouldn't have come here." Ethan's grip tightened. "What's this, Dalton? Why's my father in these pictures?" Dalton's eyes flicked toward Luna. "Put the dog outside." "Not happening." Dalton sighed. "Your father and I, we tried to protect this town. The lumber company dumped waste into the creek, kids got sick. We buried the evidence before the state could shut us down. Thought we were saving everyone's jobs." Ethan stared. "So the missing kids?" Dalton's voice cracked. "One wandered too close to the disposal pit. He drowned. We panicked. Your father covered it up, made it look like a runaway." Silence. Only the soft ticking of rain against the roof. Ethan's voice was barely a whisper. "You lied for a decade." Dalton's jaw trembled. "I lived with it every day." "So did he. It killed him long before that heart attack did." Ethan lowered his weapon slightly, but Luna growled. Her gaze fixed on Dalton's trembling hand. "Put the gun down," Ethan said softly. Dalton hesitated, eyes wet. "I'm sorry, Ethan." Then he turned the shotgun toward himself. Ethan lunged. "Dalton, don't." The blast shattered the silence. Luna barked frantically as Ethan grabbed the barrel, smoke burning his hands. Dalton collapsed, lifeless. Ethan sank beside him, chest heaving. "God, what have you done?" Outside, the rain began again, a cold, endless curtain. He buried Dalton before sunrise, marked the grave with a simple wooden cross, and filed no report. When he looked down, Luna was sitting by the mound, silent, as if she understood the weight of the secret now sealed beneath the mud. Ethan knelt, resting a hand on her neck. "We can't change what they did, girl. But we can make sure no one forgets again." Luna pressed closer, tail barely moving. Far off, thunder rumbled once more, soft, distant, like an echo answering back from beneath the pines. The rain hadn't stopped in 3 days. Pine Ridge was awash of gray mornings and sleepless nights. Sheriff Ethan Cole sat alone in his office, the blinds half drawn, the stale smell of coffee clinging to the air. Luna lay at his feet, head resting on her paws, her fur still damp from the morning patrol. Dalton's suicide had shaken the town. The official story was natural causes, a quiet heart attack in his cabin. No one asked questions. No one ever did in Pine Ridge. But Grace did. She slammed a folder onto his desk that afternoon. "You're hiding something again, Ethan." He looked up, weary. "You don't want this one, Grace." She crossed her arms. "You said that when Dad died. Then I found out half the precinct's records from 2008 vanished. You think I'll stop now?" He didn't reply. His fingers tapped against the desk, restless. Luna lifted her head, watching them both. Grace opened the folder. Photos spilled out, Dalton at the mill, kids lined up for the community picnic. One photo stopped Ethan cold. It showed his father, Dalton, and another man in uniform. The name tag read, Deputy H. Burns. Grace pointed. He was your dad's partner before Dalton got promoted. I checked, no record of resignation, no transfer, nothing. It's like he vanished. Ethan's stomach twisted. Where'd you get these? A woman came by the office. Said her brother worked cleanup at the mill. She handed me that album, said she's been waiting 15 years for someone to listen. He leaned back, jaw tight. And where's she now? Grace's eyes darkened. Dead. Car crash last night near Route 9. Ethan's hands froze. You think that's a coincidence? She shook her head slowly. No. And neither do you. That night, Ethan drove to the old police storage facility, half forgotten on the outskirts of town. The door lock had rusted through. Inside, the air was thick with mold and dust, but Luna moved like she'd been there before, sniffing, tracing old scent lines through the dark. They passed rows of evidence lockers until Luna stopped at a broken cabinet marked 2008, closed cases. She barked once, sharply. Ethan yanked the drawer open. Files spilled out, water damaged, faded. He grabbed the one labeled, Burns, Henry, missing officer. The report was 1 page long. Presumed drowned during mill flooding incident. Case closed. But attached behind it, a photograph. Ethan held it to the light. It was the same underground chamber from the mill site, only intact, walls lined with shelves, jars, and something unrecognizable in the corner. He squinted closer. It wasn't toys this time. It was dog tags. Dozens of them. And one read, Rex. His breath caught. Rex, his old K9 partner, gone missing years ago during a flood. Ethan staggered back, bile rising. They didn't just bury kids, Luna, he whispered. They used the dogs. Luna's growl echoed through the silence, low and furious. He packed the file and stormed out into the night. The wind howled through the pines, carrying the faint smell of smoke from the valley below. Grace met him at his house near dawn. Her face was pale. You were right. The town's covering it up. I pulled the death certificates. Every missing kid, every K9, all filed the same week. Signed by the same doctor. Guess who? Ethan stared at her. She said the name quietly. Henry Burns. Ethan's heart dropped. He's alive. Grace nodded. Or someone wants us to think he isn't. By afternoon, the fog rolled in so thick you could barely see the road. Ethan followed Luna through the forest toward the old Cole family cabin, abandoned since his father's death. The place felt wrong, still, too still. He pushed the door open. Dust motes swirled in the beam of his flashlight. Everything was where his father had left it, the photos on the wall, the uniform on the chair, the faint smell of tobacco and rain. Then Luna's ears shot up. She growled, moving toward the cellar door. Her tail was stiff, steps slow. Ethan's pulse quickened. What is it, girl? Luna scratched at the floorboards. A faint echo came from below, the sound of breathing. Ethan crouched, pressing his ear against the wood. There it was again, slow, ragged breaths. He drew his gun and yanked the door open. The flashlight beam cut through the dark, revealing a man sitting on a stool in the cellar, wrapped in a blanket, face hidden in shadow. Don't shoot, the man rasped. Ethan froze. Who are you? The man lifted his head. His beard was white, eyes sunken, but the name stitched on the tattered jacket was still legible. Burns. Ethan's voice cracked. You're supposed to be dead. Burns coughed, shaking. I should be. Your father tried to make sure of it. Ethan stepped closer. What are you talking about? He thought killing me would bury the truth. But the ground remembers. Luna snarled, hackles raised. Burns flinched but didn't move. I kept the records, he whispered. They used the dogs to find the waste sites. The company paid the department to hide the contamination. Your father took the deal. Dalton followed orders. But when Rex went missing, your father panicked. Said the dog knew too much. Ethan's world tilted. That's insane. Burns' eyes gleamed in the dark. That dog's bones are still out there. Under the same soil that's killing your town. Lightning flashed outside. And in that instant, Luna began to bark, loud, furious, uncontrollable. Because something moved in the window behind Ethan. A shadow. Watching. He spun, gun ready, but the window was empty, rain pouring down the glass. When he turned back, Burns was gone. The blanket lay on the floor, the stool overturned, cellar door swinging open to the night. Ethan ran outside into the storm, shouting, "Burns!" Nothing. Just rain and thunder. Luna barked again, staring into the woods, where faint footprints disappeared into the mud. Ethan followed her gaze. The trail led deeper into the forest, toward the place where it all began, the collapsed lumber site. He holstered his gun and whispered, "All right, girl. One last time." Luna gave a soft whine, then stepped into the darkness. Morning came slow and gray over Pine Ridge. The storm had passed, but the forest still dripped with last night's memory. The sheriff's station smelled of coffee, rain-soaked jackets, and tired officers who hadn't slept. Ethan sat at his desk, eyes on the evidence bag in front of him, the badge with his father's name, Deputy Hank Cole. The metal was rusted, edges chipped, but the engraving was clear. His fingers trembled slightly as he turned it over. "Your dad's badge?" Deputy Riley asked from across the room. Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah. But it was found under an abandoned lumber yard 20 miles from where he disappeared." Riley frowned. "I thought the official story was he died in that warehouse fire." Ethan stared at the badge, voice low. "So did I." Luna lay quietly by his feet, her head resting on her paws. But her eyes never left the evidence table. Every sound outside, every car door, every creak, made her ears twitch. She was on edge. Riley set down his coffee. "You think someone moved his stuff there?" "I think," Ethan said, "someone wanted it to stay hidden until now." The radio crackled again. "Sheriff, we've got a local reporting strange activity near the Old Ridge Trail cabin. Says he saw someone moving lights out there last night." Riley raised an eyebrow. "You're not thinking." Ethan was already grabbing his jacket. "Yeah. We're going." The forest was still damp, morning fog hanging low like breath over the soil. Luna led the way, her nose close to the ground. Her pace was steady, but her tail stayed stiff, a sign she smelled something familiar. Riley followed with the flashlight. "You sure about this, Cole? That place hasn't been used in years." Ethan didn't answer. He knew this trail too well, his dad used to take him hunting here as a kid. The air felt colder the deeper they went. After 20 minutes, they reached the cabin. The windows were boarded, the porch sagged with age, and a single lantern burned faintly inside. Ethan motioned Riley to circle left while he moved to the front door. Luna waited for the signal. With a nod, Ethan kicked the door open. The lantern flickered, no one inside. Just old furniture, cobwebs, and a faint smell of oil and metal. Then Luna barked, once, sharp and urgent. She ran to the corner near a wooden chest. Her claws scraped against the floorboards. Ethan hurried over, pulling the chest aside, beneath it, a trapdoor, newer than the rest of the cabin. Riley muttered, "Not again." Ethan opened it slowly. The air rising from below was cold, metallic. Luna sniffed, growled low. They descended with flashlights. The walls were lined with photos, newspaper clippings, and maps of Pine Ridge, all pinned together by red strings. Riley exhaled. Jesus, someone's been tracking half the town. Ethan's light stopped on a photo near the center. It was his father, smiling in uniform, but someone had scratched an X through his face. And beneath it, a handwritten note. The fire was never an accident. His pulse hammered. Riley, get back up. A sudden metallic click cut through the silence. From behind the wall, a door opened, and a shadow moved. Before Ethan could react, a shot rang out, splinters flying. Riley dove behind a beam, returning fire. Luna barked furiously, running toward the source. Luna! No! Ethan shouted, chasing her. Through the smoke and echo, Luna leapt into the darkness, and then a yelp. Luna! Ethan's flashlight found her, tangled in wires, bleeding slightly on her side but still struggling to move forward, eyes locked on the fleeing figure at the tunnel's end. Ethan fired once, hitting the metal doorframe as it slammed shut. He rushed to Luna, cutting the wires with his knife. Easy, girl. Easy. She licked his hand weakly, eyes flicking toward the door. Riley ran up, breathing hard. You hit him? Ethan shook his head. No. But he left something behind. He picked up a small object near the tunnel floor, a silver keychain, engraved with a symbol of Pine Ridge Lumber Company. Ethan's voice went cold. Whoever that was, knew my father. Outside, the morning sun finally broke through the fog, but Ethan barely noticed. He sat beside Luna in the patrol truck, gently wrapping her wound. You saved me again, he whispered. She leaned against him, her breathing slow, steady. Her loyalty was something words couldn't touch. Riley approached from the cabin, holding a plastic file. You'll want to see this. Found it nailed inside the doorframe. Ethan opened it. Inside was a single photo. A young Ethan with his father, standing in front of the same lumber yard where the badge was found. On the back of the photo, in smeared ink. Finish what he started. Ethan stared at it, jaw tight. Luna looked up at him, ears raised. The wind picked up again, carrying the faint scent of pine and something older, the kind of smell that came with secrets buried too long. Ethan looked at the horizon. We're not done, girl. Not even close. Luna barked once, as if she understood. The pines whispered again. And somewhere far beyond the trees, someone was watching. Rain returned 2 nights later, soft and cold, blurring the lights of Pine Ridge like a half-forgotten dream. The sheriff's office sat quiet except for the low hum of the old ceiling fan. Ethan hadn't gone home since the cabin. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his father's face through smoke and Luna's blood on his hands. Luna was resting on a blanket beside his desk, her side stitched and bandaged. The vet said she'd recover fully, strong heart, no internal damage. But she hadn't barked once since the attack. She just watched Ethan with those deep amber eyes, as if she knew more than she could say. Ethan was tracing the keychain they'd found, the Pine Ridge Lumber Company insignia carved in metal, initials, Jr., etched on the back. He flipped open the old case files his father once kept, water-damaged folders marked, Fire Incident 2008. He read aloud quietly. Employee, John Rayner. Reported missing 1 week before the fire. He stopped. J.R. Riley entered, holding 2 steaming coffees. You're still at it? Ethan nodded. John Rayner. He worked at the mill. My dad was investigating him before the fire. They thought it was arson. Riley frowned. You think this guy's still alive? Ethan's eyes darkened. He's not just alive. He's cleaning up whatever my father left unfinished. That evening, Ethan drove out to the North Quarry, where the lumber shipments once left the town. Luna sat in the passenger seat, alert again, quiet but focused. The wipers clicked rhythmically as headlights sliced through the mist. The place looked abandoned, cranes rusted, warehouses caved in, and muddy tire tracks fading into the woods. Luna jumped out the moment the truck stopped, tail stiff. She sniffed the air, then the ground, her head snapping toward the far shed. Ethan followed, gun drawn. The metal door was half open, swinging slightly in the wind. Inside, his flashlight beam cut through dust and darkness. The room smelled of old gasoline. Then he saw them, blueprints pinned to a board, newer than everything else. The Pine Ridge Mill, the old fire site, the police station, all marked with red circles. He pulled one closer. What the hell? Each red circle had a number. The one over the sheriff's office was labeled 3/5, retrieve evidence. And beneath it, scrawled in black marker. Final phase, erase the coal line. Ethan's throat went dry. He's coming for me. Suddenly, Luna growled, low, deep, her body tense. Ethan spun around, a faint sound echoed behind the shed. Stay, he whispered. He stepped outside, flashlight scanning through the fog. Nothing. Then, movement. A shadow darted between the trees. Stop! Ethan shouted, running after it. Branches slapped his face, boots thudding on wet ground. The figure ahead stumbled once, heavy coat, tall build. Ethan raised his gun. Sheriff Cole. Drop your weapon. No response. The man turned slightly, lightning flashed, revealing a scarred face, pale eyes glinting. Then he disappeared into the dark again. Luna barked furiously behind Ethan, chasing after the scent. They reached the ridge edge, overlooking the river below. The current raged from the storm. The man stood on the edge, staring back at Ethan. Who are you? Ethan demanded. The stranger's voice was rough, almost broken. You shouldn't have dug it up. Your father made the same mistake. What did you do to him? The man's expression shifted, something like regret. I didn't kill Hank Cole. I tried to save him. But the fire wasn't ours to stop. Before Ethan could ask more, a shot rang out from the distance. The stranger jerked, hit in the shoulder. He stumbled backward, into the river. No! Ethan yelled, running forward, but the current had already taken him. Luna barked down the slope, whining. Riley came rushing through the trees, gun raised. I saw someone else running east. Ethan stared at the river, chest heaving. He wasn't alone. Hours later, back at the station, Ethan watched the rain smear the window glass. He replayed the man's words over and over, the fire wasn't ours to stop. He turned to the evidence wall, the old photo, the badge, the map. He drew a circle over the last untouched location, the Ridgewood Cemetery, where his father's ashes were said to be buried. Luna sat up beside him, tail tapping once. Ethan grabbed his jacket, eyes sharp. Come on, girl. Let's finish what he started. The rain had thinned to a whisper by the time Ethan and Luna reached Ridgewood Cemetery. The old iron gates stood open, rust streaking down their sides like dried blood. Fog drifted between the gravestones, rolling slow and heavy, swallowing everything beyond a few yards. Luna walked ahead, her nose low, tail still. Each paw step was soft, deliberate, she could smell something Ethan couldn't. The air was colder here. Even the pines were silent. Ethan turned his flashlight on and followed the narrow path. His boots sank slightly in the soaked earth. He stopped in front of the headstone marked Deputy Hank Cole, 1965 to 2008. Devoted father. Fearless lawman. For a long moment, Ethan just stood there. The memories hit in flashes, his father's laugh, his voice on the radio, the smell of his uniform after long shifts. He kneeled and placed his hand on the stone. I'm close now, Dad. I promise I'll find the truth. Luna whimpered beside him, nudging the ground with her nose. She scratched once, twice, then stopped and stared at a patch of dirt near the base of the grave. Ethan frowned. "What is it, girl?" He brushed the soil aside. Beneath it was something solid, a metal box, old but sealed tight. Ethan's heart started pounding. He dug it out carefully and cracked it open. Inside were documents, charred around the edges but still readable, handwritten notes, police reports, photographs. One of the photos showed Hank Cole standing with John Rayner, the man from the river. Behind them, the Pine Ridge lumber mill loomed. Ethan flipped over the photo. On the back, scrawled in his father's handwriting. "Rayner discovered the truth. Protect him if I can't." "What truth?" Ethan whispered. He shuffled through the papers, a contract, inspection reports, chemical orders. Then he found it, a letter, dated a week before the fire. "The company's dumping illegal waste under the mill. Toxic. The fumes are unstable. If exposed to heat, the whole structure could ignite. They want it buried. If anything happens to me, find Rayner. Hank Cole." Ethan sat back, breath shaky. The fire wasn't arson. It was a cover-up, and his father had known. He looked at Luna. He was silenced. She tilted her head, ears twitching, then suddenly growled, low and sharp. Her eyes locked on something behind the gravestones. Ethan rose instantly, flashlight sweeping the dark. The beam caught a flicker, movement near the trees. "Who's there?" he shouted. A voice echoed softly, calm but cold. "You should have stayed away, Sheriff." A figure stepped into the light, Deputy Riley. Ethan froze. "Riley, what are you doing here?" Riley's face was unreadable, his hand resting on his holster. "I told you to stop digging. You weren't supposed to find that box." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You were part of it." Riley nodded slowly. "We all were. The department took hush money from the mill to bury the investigation. Your dad wouldn't play along. So they made sure the fire erased everything, and him with it. You shot Rayner." Riley shrugged. "Loose ends." Luna growled louder, stepping forward. Riley aimed his gun. "Don't." Ethan moved in front of her. "He trusted you, Riley." "My father." "He trusted everyone," Riley said quietly. "That's what got him killed." The rain started again, slow and steady, as both men stood locked in silence. The only sound was Luna's steady growl. Ethan's voice dropped. "You're not walking out of here." Riley smirked. "Neither are you." He fired. The shot cracked through the fog. Ethan dove sideways, feeling the bullet graze his arm. Luna lunged forward with a snarl, knocking Riley off balance. His gun clattered across the ground. Ethan scrambled up, tackling Riley hard into the mud. They fought brutally, fists, elbows, mud flying. Riley grabbed a rock, swinging, Ethan blocked it, pain shooting through his ribs. Luna barked wildly, trying to get close, but Riley kicked her away. Ethan saw red. He punched again, hard enough to send Riley sprawling against the gravestone. Riley coughed, blood streaking his lips. "You think you can change anything?" he spat. "The company owns this town. They'll bury you too." Ethan grabbed him by the collar, breathing hard. "Then I'll dig deeper." He turned him over, cuffed him to the iron gate, and called dispatch. "Officer down, suspect in custody, send backup to Ridgewood Cemetery." Riley just laughed softly, rain washing over his face. "It's too late, Cole. They already lit the fuse." Ethan frowned. "What fuse?" Riley looked past him, toward the horizon. That's when Ethan saw it, a faint orange glow rising beyond the tree-line. Smoke. The old lumber mill was burning again. He looked at Luna, adrenaline kicking in. "Come on, girl. We're not done yet. They ran through the rain toward the fire, the pines whispering behind them like ghosts remembering everything. Flames rose above the treetops like hungry ghosts, turning the night sky orange. The air was thick with smoke and ash, and every breath burned. Ethan's truck roared down the dirt road toward the old Pine Ridge lumber mill, headlights cutting through the chaos. Beside him, Luna barked once, sharp and urgent. Her side still bore a faint scar from the last fight, but her spirit was unshaken, alive, focused, ready. As they neared the clearing, Ethan slammed the brakes. The heat hit like a wall. The mill was engulfed, fire crawling up its broken rafters, devouring what was left of the past. He grabbed his flashlight, gun, and radio. "Dispatch, this is Sheriff Cole. Multiple explosions at the old mill, possible accelerants. I need fire response, now." Static. The radio was dead. Luna whined, glancing toward the entrance. She wanted to go in. Ethan crouched down beside her. "No, girl. It's too dangerous." She growled softly, pawing at the dirt, refusing to stay. Ethan sighed. "All right. But stay close." They moved through the fire-lit ruins. The wooden beams groaned and collapsed, sparks raining like fireflies. Smoke clawed at Ethan's lungs, but he pushed forward. He knew the truth was somewhere in here, something his father had died trying to expose. They reached the central floor, or what was left of it. Scattered across the ground were metal drums, half melted, leaking a strange, glowing residue that hissed as it touched the flames. Ethan muttered, "Toxic waste." Just like his letter said. He shone his flashlight deeper, and froze. At the far end, through the rising smoke, John Rayner stood. Alive. His arm was bandaged, face pale, but his eyes burned with desperate determination. "Rayner!" Ethan shouted, running forward. "You're alive." Rayner coughed, voice rough. "Barely. They tried to finish it tonight. Riley's in custody. The rest will follow." Rayner shook his head. "No. You don't understand. They planted explosives in the foundation. The whole site's rigged to collapse into the river, take the evidence with it." Ethan's pulse spiked. "How much time?" "Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe less." He scanned the wreckage. "There's gotta be a shutoff." Rayner nodded weakly. "Control panel, under the old boiler room." Ethan turned to Luna. "Find it, girl." She darted off through the smoke, weaving between fallen beams, nose low. Ethan followed her until they reached the basement steps, half buried, burning debris blocking the way down. He kicked through the rubble, coughing hard. The air was thick and acidic. "Luna, stay behind me." The basement glowed with the light of small detonators blinking red along the walls. In the center, a rusted control box hissed and sparked. Ethan tore the panel open, revealing wires tangled like veins. "Come on, come on." Behind him, Luna barked, a warning. Rayner stumbled into view, clutching his side. "Cut the yellow one. Power line to the ignition." Ethan's hands shook as he pulled the knife from his belt. "If you're wrong." Rayner gave a faint smile. "Then we'll see Hank sooner than expected." Ethan sliced the yellow wire. For one terrible second, nothing. Then the red light stopped blinking. The room fell silent except for the crackle of flames above. He exhaled, almost laughing. "You did it." Rayner smiled weakly. "No, Sheriff, you did." The ceiling above groaned, a massive beam crashed down between them. Ethan was thrown back, coughing. When the smoke cleared, Rayner was gone, crushed under debris, motionless. "Rayner!" Ethan shouted, crawling toward him. But it was too late. He pressed his hand to his chest, lowering his head. "I'll finish it. I swear." Luna nudged his arm gently, whining. Let's go, girl. They ran out of the basement just as the far end of the mill collapsed. Flames burst skyward, the ground shaking beneath their feet. Ethan dove behind the truck, shielding Luna as the roof caved in completely. The explosion echoed across the forest, then silence. Rain began to fall, hissing as it hit the smoldering ruins. Dawn crept slowly over Pine Ridge. Smoke still rose in lazy columns. Fire crews moved through the wreckage, hosing down what was left. Ethan sat on the tailgate of his truck, bandaged arm resting on his knee. Luna lay beside him, her head on his boot. Deputy from the next county approached. We found chemical barrels, dozens of them. Looks like your father was right all along. Ethan nodded quietly. He usually was. The deputy hesitated. What about the guy who helped you? Ethan looked toward the ruins. He stayed behind. Luna lifted her head slightly, ears twitching at the sound of the wind. Ethan reached down, scratching behind her ear. You did good, girl. You saved me more times than I can count. She looked up at him, eyes reflecting the sunrise, calm, loyal, unbreakable. For a long while, they just sat there, man and dog, side by side, watching the fire's smoke fade into morning light. Then Ethan stood, his silhouette framed against the gray sky. Come on, Luna. Let's go home. She barked once, a soft, content sound, and followed him down the road as the first real sunlight touched the forest. The pines whispered again, softer this time. Not of guilt or secrets, but of peace.